Welcome back. I guess it's been another month. It's now been 3 months and 6 days since the surgery, which means I'm half the way through what people say as like the 6-month mark of the features having been settled, and a quarter of the way to the 1 year mark when people say that you're pretty much back to normal in terms of both features and sensation and that kind of thing. So what's been going on? Also, first of all, hello. If you don't know who I am, my name is Huld. I am probably just some random person online to you, but to some people they know me as the actor in Untitled Chapter who plays Jimmy, the lunatic hotel owner, haunted by a dark past. And I started fundraising for facial feminization surgery in 2023 and finally had the surgery in March this year, 2026, with Doctor Rossi at T-Change in Argentina. And this is the number 3-4 video about my process of recovery from that surgery. I've been making this series of videos for the purpose of showing the people who've supported me through my fundraising and for other trans people who are going through or thinking about facial feminization surgery to give them an idea of the process that I'm going through with it. And as I said, we are now at the 3-month mark. So first of all, I guess let's go over the visual aspect of things. This is where I'm at the moment. I think it's pretty obvious that things have started to kind of settle down now. In the last couple of weeks, I definitely feel like I've started to see a difference. My jaw is starting to like calm down a little bit. It's starting to be a little bit less puffy. And obviously the hair is starting to grow out at the back. I guess that's a good segue into talking about the hair transplant. This is the transplant. This side is filling in a little bit. This side, not great. I think I talked in a previous video about having trimmed back the new hair, the hair that had been transplanted, because it was coming out really raggedy, and I just felt it was good to just bring it back a little bit. So that's why it's not super long at the moment, but that's where it's at right now. This side, I'm pretty happy with. It's not great. It's definitely not like a finished product, but it is something. This side, I don't think that's going to turn out very well. I don't know why, but it's like almost bald. And that's annoying and worrying. Nobody told me at any stage of the process that most trans people who get hair transplants need to have at least 2. Nobody. Not my FFS surgeon who partnered with the hair transplant surgeon, and not the company that does the hair transplants. The first I heard of it was when Amanda was driving me home from my transplant saying that she'd had 3 and that I would definitely like end up having at least 2 myself. At which point I said, well, I really hope that's not the case, or something like that. And she just kind of chuckled. At the time, I was really annoyed by it, and I still am, because that's not a conversation I want to have directly after I've had a hair transplant. And the more I think about it, the more it frustrates me. I don't know why I hadn't heard about this before. And since then, I did see it mentioned on a Reddit thread. Someone posting about their hair transplant and how, most trans people end up having 2 or even 3 transplants in order to make it feel full. The difference between trans people and cis men having hair transplants is that cis men's hair is thinning, and it's thinning more uniformly, right? So in order to make it fit, when you do a transplant into those areas, it doesn't need to be as full. Whereas my hair isn't thinning. My hair is perfectly fine all the way around. So in order to make it fit with this hair needs to be quite full, otherwise it just looks weird. So I'm not done with hair transplants. Most likely. I have to wait another 3 months or so before I can make a really clear assessment of that. But based on the two different sides here and looking at like how long the hairs are and like what new hairs are coming in, I'm not too inclined to believe that it's going to be fine in the end and that this is going to be done. So I think for anyone considering hair transplants, just know that this is extremely unlikely to be a one and done affair. The reason for it is that you can't place them as tightly together in your first go, because you don't want that density of healing tissue and healing follicles in one go. So you have to wait for that to heal, and then you do another round, and then hopefully that's it. And remember, every time you do it, the hair at the back of the head, where you're taking it from, is going to thin. So just be careful how you engage with this. It's probably going to be at least double the cost of a hair transplant in the end. Good to know. With that in mind, would I still have done the hair transplant? Probably. But it means that the hair transplant is probably the part of the whole process that I'm the least satisfied with at this time. And I wouldn't have been this dissatisfied if someone at some point had communicated to me that this wasn't going to be one and done. Now I'm annoyed and upset because I thought I was going to have one outcome, and that's not the outcome I'm getting. Informed consent means letting people know of the limitations of what you're going to go through. And I was never given that with this. And just for clarity, I have no idea why this side is not coming in as much as this side. Nothing wrong has happened to this side. I don't remember knocking myself. When I first cleaned the area, my surgeon said it all looked great and I was healing up well. It's just the shock loss on that side just like really hit, and I haven't seen it come back from that yet. So it's just something to be aware of, that it might be uneven and that the results are a little bit unpredictable. On to the facial feminization surgery. So my feelings about this are pretty good. I'm pretty happy with where this is going right now. Visually, as I said, it's starting to calm down a little bit. It's starting to soften around the edges of the chin. Sensation is fully returned here, but it does still feel weird. When I shave, it's like still slightly off, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I am looking forward to the day when there's no longer any like constant sensation in the lower lip, and where I can talk without it being puffy. But as you probably noticed, this is looking a lot less uneven now. So if I do this isn't looking too bad. I no longer have this kind of face whenever I try to smile. So that's good, you know. It's still not 100%, but this muscle is coming back. So for those of you who've been with me from the start and who know my concerns with this, as much as it is still uneven, and you can see that when I'm talking now, that one side you can see the lower teeth and the other side you can't, it is getting better, and that's given me some hope. You might remember that I took some stitches out of my mouth, like with scissors, a few months back. And I haven't really talked about the scarring and what's going on the inside of the mouth since then. The scarring is not uncomfortable. I'm not noticing it most of the time, but every now and then I will just run my tongue along that bit between my teeth and the lip, and I'll feel the kind of like grooves where the stitches were, because it leaves a texture. It's like this texture that's in there, and it's not perfectly smooth the way it used to be. And sometimes I can feel like that middle, like bit of sinew or whatever it is in my lip, and it's just a little bit tighter. So it's a bit weird, and I don't know if there's anything I can do about it, but it's also nothing I need to do anything about. It's just every now and then I just need to make sure I haven't left any tiny bits of food in the crevice. So that's something you just like should be aware of. That's a sensation that's probably going to be there forever. I don't see that like suddenly smoothing over and changing, but maybe over the next like 7 years as the skin replenishes, maybe it'll be less so, but it's going to be long term. I'm settling into my nose. I've talked in my previous videos about how I kind of wish that we left some of the size even though I was happy with the shape change. And I think I'm kind of just settling into it now. As my nose is starting to calm down a bit as well, it is starting to be less kind of puffy around the middle, which is quite nice. And I can see my kind of characteristic bumps on my nose kind of coming out more now that the swelling is going down. And for those of you who don't know, I requested to maintain some of the bump because I liked the character of my old nose, but I acknowledged that it needed to change somewhat to be harmonious with the rest of the changes. An interesting thing that's happened with the nose is that on 2 occasions I had the same thing happen on different sides. So I was just standing in the mirror and I just happened to be doing this, and suddenly this side just went boonk, like a pop, and I was like, shit, I popped a stitch somehow. And obviously that was more than 2 years after the surgery, so I was pretty confident that it wasn't going to be an issue in terms of any bleeding or anything like that, and I didn't bleed. But it did worry me because it was associated with some pain in the area and soreness, but the next day it was kind of gone and I forgot about it. And then it happened again like a week ago, where on this side I was just doing this, and I think I could feel that something was happening because I felt compelled to do it, you know, and I just kind of pulled down a little bit extra and it went boonk. And again, same bit of soreness that lasted for a couple of days, and then it was gone. Before the second stitch popped, I couldn't really blow my nose very well. If I put my hands to my nose, it always felt a little bit uncomfortable, especially trying to blow through it and things like that. So definitely I think the stitches were kind of holding things together a little bit tight. And now that they've released, it's all feeling a little bit better, a little bit more natural. Facially, I think that's everything that I need to update you about. But I haven't really talked to you about exercise in a while. Obviously, I talked about immediate post-surgery exercise and movement in my earlier videos, but then I haven't really talked about return to exercise since then. So when I came back to Edinburgh, I took an extra week off work before I had to go back. I no longer have my car because I sold it to make up the extra money that I didn't get on my fundraiser. And so I've been cycling to work every day since I came back. So that's been 2 months of cycling to work. The first few weeks I had to be really careful. I was told very specifically not to let my heart rate go up too much and not to get too out of breath. So I had to be like extremely careful cycling in order to make sure that I kept it gentle. Once I felt safe to push it a little bit more, I would slowly increase intensity of my cycling to the point where I could cycle in a way that felt natural to me. After a few more weeks of that, I started gently to lift weights again. And as some of you know, I am a personal trainer. Lifting weights is kind of my job. I struggled a lot with weightlifting and exercise for years after I had a mental health knock from a situation at an old job, and then COVID happened, and then I went back into the gym when we opened back up and worked out too hard, gave myself a hamstring injury, and I just really struggled to find my way back to training for like 4 years at least. So I've been, lost a lot of strength, lost a lot of muscle, and that's been quite difficult. There's a loss of control. There's kind of a loss of autonomy when you find that you can't do these things that you used to do and you used to love. And specifically, I wasn't allowed to do deadlifts and squats and things like that while I was healing from my hamstring injury, and that just made me not want to work out at all. Late last year, in order to prepare for the surgery, I started getting back into fitness, started getting back into weightlifting, and I did some running and all that kind of stuff and started to feel pretty good again. So I was kind of terrified of going into the surgery and going into the post-surgery period and not being able to get into weightlifting again for like a month and a half to 2 months at least, because my motivation is fickle, and when I'm away from something for too long, it can take me a very long time to get back into it. The first time I lifted weights coming back, I did some upper body and I could really feel the pressure in my head from the weightlifting. I definitely noticed that I wasn't like 100% yet, but it was okay, and I kept the weights low for me and just decided to take it at the pace that felt right. So that's been taken like maybe I guess a month before I started to feel like I was starting to settle into that. I have a Garmin that tells me all sorts of different things based on my heart rate when I sleep, based on my training and stuff like that. And I'm happy to report that at this point I am weightlifting regularly. I weightlift twice a week. I've just started doing a little bit of running again, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm actually looking forward to lifting again. And that ties into some other things around fitness and around health and in recovery that I'm going to go into next as we talk about fatigue. Some people are really good at just like being like, I have fatigue, I am fatigued, and I know what's happening in my body. I don't know if it's because I'm autistic or something else, but I find that really hard. My interoception is terrible, and often I don't notice how things are working on me until they come out in some other ancillary way. And my Garmin told me since I came back to Edinburgh that I am strained and that I'm not sleeping well and that my heart rate variability, which is apparently very important, is terrible, very unbalanced. Unfortunately, it's been correct. If you follow me on Threads, you might have seen me a few weeks back. I was online going, why am I so fatigued all the time? I have no energy to do anything but go to work and play video games, and I want to be able to do things, but I get to the end of the week and I just don't want to do anything at all. I feel so exhausted all the time and I don't want to do anything. And for some reason, it didn't click in at all that this was me still in recovery, but at a heightened level of activity. Not long after I posted that, literally within the week of me posting that, I started to actually do more things again. I started to want to do things and have the energy to do them. I started to feel better. I started to get better results on my heart rate variability, and things just kind of started picking up and leading to the point where I'm at now, where I'm like excited to do leg day today and excited to do things. I'll post a screenshot here from my history on my Garmin. You can see how the heart rate variability just goes up into the green about 2 weeks ago. And that's exactly when I started feeling better. And it's so annoying. But that's what it is. Do I feel like I should have held back on exercise until I was feeling better? Not really. What works for you and what makes you feel better and what's healthy for you completely depends on how it's affecting you personally and what you feel and what's important to you. For me, it was important to get back into my fitness, to get back to lifting. I was excited to do that stuff even though it was hard for me, and I really just wanted to feel stronger and feel like I had some semblance of control. And I was still taking rest. I was still resting all through the weekend and making sure that I didn't overexert myself. But I probably pushed it more than I quote unquote should have. But for me, that was the right amount. Yes, I was exhausted at the end of the week, but it also means that I didn't exit weightlifting, which was very important to me given my difficulties with exercise in the past several years. So my recommendation to you is do the things that feel right for you. For like a month and a half, the only thing that felt right for me was playing video games and remaining indoors. I think that part of my frustration coming to the end of that was not just being annoyed with being cooped up, but actually my brain starting to wake up and wanting more, but my body not being there yet. So it's a classic, it's always darkest before the dawn. I felt so rubbish because I wanted more. Before then, I didn't want more. All I wanted was to be at home because it's all I could fathom. And it was really frustrating when I started to feel like I wanted more, but I couldn't. And now I can, and I'm feeling better, and everything feels a little bit overwhelming. And I'm still recovering. I'm still struggling to stay on top of everyday things, staying in touch with potential new clients, remembering when certain parties are. There was a party that happened a week and a half ago that I thought happened 3 days ago, until I found out a week after the party happened, and I was so excited to go, and I was so upset when I couldn't go because I was a week late. But it's okay, because we're flawed human beings and we just go through this at whatever pace and in whatever way we can. So 3 months in, this is where we're at. As a reminder, this is me not long after the surgery. This is me a little while later. And this is me now. I feel like I'll probably record another video in a month or so. Because why not? Why not just keep that going and then see what happens? If you find this video helpful, if you have questions, please feel free to leave a comment to ask me questions about my surgery recovery. At Dead of Night 2 will come out at some point. I don't know when. I don't make the game. I hope this video is of use to some people. And I'll see you around in the next one. Bye.
She's a maniac on the floor. And she's rolling round on grass that's dried before. She's a maniac on the floor. And she's begging for the belly rub some more. She's a babyak. She's a babyak.